Hi. So I wanted to continue the story of how we got to our triplet pregnancy. On my last video, I talked about our infertility journey, dealing with secondary infertility, and all of the different hoops and things we had to jump over to get there. But I wanted this video to be really all about finding out that we were expecting, and kind of what's going on up until now. So, um, I want to say it was November 7th, I took a pregnancy test. I knew that 4 days past transfer was really early, but I had very active in the Instagram and fertility community and seen a lot of people get their positives on 4 days past. And I figured, why not? Let's just try. I had all of the symptoms, and if it was negative, maybe it would be another day or two, then we would test again. So I hopped out of bed. It was a Saturday morning. Took my test right away, and I actually was standing in the closet where the light is the best and just screamed. And my husband Grant came running in, and he was like, "It's positive, isn't it?" And I just lost it, as anybody would, especially after 3 years of trying to get pregnant, and it being almost 5 years since I had seen a positive pregnancy test. It was a very faint line, but it was there. I knew. I've stared at those tests for months and months and months, and line eyes are real, but this was a real line. And so at 4 days past transfer, I had a positive test. I had told myself I had, I think, 6 tests. I was going to take one every day until I ran out of tests, and then beta day, I would stop because I knew that it could just really mess with your mind, wanting to see those lines get darker. And then sometimes you just have too much HCG in your system where those lines can even flip, where the test just can't take that much HCG or HCG anymore. So I didn't want to do that to myself, but I did want to have a couple of days of progression lines. So that was pretty amazing to be able to see it get darker and darker and darker. Um, so then beta day happened. We had a wonderful beta. I believe it was 225. I need to double check all my numbers. I should have had that ready. But was very excited to see that. I knew I was going to be expecting a positive. I just didn't know how high the number would be. And then our next beta more than doubled. I believe it was a little over 1400, maybe even 1500. So I immediately, because I've done so much research, knew the multiples were a pretty strong chance. Betas are and are not indicative of multiples, but it was pretty high, and it more than doubled between my two tests. So when we went in for our 6 week ultrasound to confirm placement and all that good stuff, my husband was convinced. He said it's going to be twins. And I was like, no, we didn't have any luck before. I'm shocked that we even had success this time. It's just one. So as the ultrasound was going over my belly, we both saw two almond sacs and knew immediately, like almond shaped sacs, and knew immediately that they were twins. So I screamed, I yelled, I'm sure I cried. I think I might have said a bad word or two. My poor doctor was just looking at me like she was terrified I was going to yell at her. But we were obviously excited. I mean, I think it was, the best news was to hear that we had one baby, and it was even better to hear that there were two. Um, so as the ultrasound went on, we got to see that they were in the right places. And, since we transferred two embryos, we figured they were just both took. That what we were actually looking at were baby A and C, because they looked fraternal. And it was just exciting to be able to see that there were healthy babies that were in there. So we left, celebrating, very excited, got to share the news with our parents, and, certainly just in a whirlwind of, oh my gosh, there's two. So I desperately went down the dark hole of Google and YouTube and just finding twin resources. I found a really cool site called Twiniversity, where I just slowly got to feel more comfortable with the fact that we were going to have two babies. Um, I was a little disappointed. I'm not gonna lie. I wanted to have my perfect little family of two kids, but one extra would have been pretty fun too. Little did I know, next week at our 7 week ultrasound, I'm on the table. We see the two sacs and the two babies in there, and I immediately saw the third sac. And I just yelled the F word. I was just so surprised. I said, "There's a third baby." And the doctor said, "You're right. There's a third baby. The sac has a baby embryo in it. You have triplets." And I just started laughing. I was hysterical. I didn't know what to do. I mean, that's the kind of news you just never expect, or you only see on weird YouTube channels of people that are sharing their story because it's so rare. So, I mean, my husband's holding my hand the whole time. We're just shaking. He had made a joke before we even got there because I was having some like chest acne or something. And I was like, "Oh, make sure I say something about this." And he said, "The only reason I wouldn't tell her, help you remember is if there's a third baby." So I think it was his fault that they found baby C. But now that I'm 17 weeks and that was 10 weeks ago, I'm just so different headspace, in a different headspace than I was then. I feel so much better about it. But flashing back to that 7 weeks, finding out that there are three, we called the parents again and they said, "We've got more news." And they're just kind of like expecting almost the worst because when you find out there's more than one, there's always a risk that they're not all going to make it. And we said, "No, it's not twins." And they just kind of were silent. We said, "It's triplets." And I mean, same reaction as anybody watching this probably has. It's just shocking. Every time we've shared the news, it's just been more and more, wow, like that's really cool. Or are you okay with that? I'm like, "What kind of have to be?" Um, so it's just finding that news out that there was a third and just the shock and sadness, to be honest, that I felt again of, well, I wanted two babies, like total. These three extra babies, we really were getting two more than we had planned on. Really just shocked me, and I wasn't prepared for it. So I'm not gonna lie, I think for that next week, I was just really sad. I just didn't know how to handle it. I was very overwhelmed. The excitement of everybody else, excuse me, was helping me get through it, but I was terrified. How am I going to grow three babies? How am I going to have my own identity after this? I work full time. I love my job. I love being a mom, but I didn't know if I loved being a mom that much where I would have that many children. How do you expand your heart to love four kids when I was just getting prepared for two? In all honesty, I had just gotten prepared for three because we had just been told we were having twins. Um, so that really was my first week of knowing about the triplets was just terror. And just how is this going to work out? And again, going to Instagram and YouTube and just looking up these triplet moms and just seeing how strong they are. And I found this amazing podcast called Triplet Talk. And they go through almost every phase of what I was going through together. So it's the husband and wife, and they talk about the day they found out, and then kind of progressing through all of the different stages, and it's an episode per kind of segment of what exactly I was going through. So not gonna lie, that podcast saved me. Not saved me, I wasn't spiraling in a very dark way. It just was, I needed some help to adjust, and I think that's completely normal. But hearing about these moms that were doing it successfully, seeing their babies older and thriving and as toddlers and running around, gave me a whole lot of hope. So I just really wanted to kind of share how I reacted because I don't know that I've told a lot of people exactly how I was feeling, but just wanted to kind of talk through that positive test to starting to feel okay with it. And I'll certainly do another video talking more about the pregnancy itself once I settled in and started feeling more things, and kind of highlight that way. Because again, I had some resources, but I found it just so helpful when people dug in and shared real life what was going on along the process. So if you are an expecting triplet mom, or if you're just interested in knowing how the heck three babies can grow and go through pregnancy, that's really what I'm just hoping to share here.